2 or 3 seconds.
Oh,
And we're live. Yeah, we're very welcome. You're all welcome to the second episode of Comhrá Le Tomás, a new podcast that's going, and I hope you're enjoying it today. Tonight, I'm delighted to have Graham Geraghty, former Meath player and overall legend of the game. Graham, you're very welcome to the show. How was the I suppose, the lockdown for you and all that? Are you all coming through it okay?
Yeah, it's not too bad for me, Tomás. One thing for me, I was working through the whole thing, so it didn't kind of affect, I suppose, family life for me that much. I know, I suppose, if you look at other people's situations where both people are out of work, it can be tough, but I was working away, so, that end of it was okay, and it kind of helped us get through the weeks where there was nothing happening.
I saw you actually working. I'd say it was on the Lake Gael when it was out, Graham. You work with young lads, don't you?
Yeah. I work with lads that are in residential care, so they're in care of the state, basically.
And do you stay in with them, or how does it work like? And is it a full on day like? So are you a part of all parts of the day with them like?
Oh yeah, I go in the morning. Our shift starts at 10 o'clock, and you're there till bedtime, and then you stay over with them as well until the next shift comes in the next day. So it just kind of gives them that kind of I suppose stability and kind of family life as well, really, but that they wouldn't normally get. But I enjoy what I'm doing. I think the two young guys I work with, they're very outgoing as well, and fun to be around. So that helps as well. It's not all work. It's a good bit of crack as well, and I've had them up in Croke Park a good few times just to show them where it all happened.
I often and it's not a giving out or it's not a cut at anybody, but I find if there's a bit of a messer in yourself, you relate, because I'm a teacher myself, and I'd always have a soft spot for a bit of a messer, and when you can relate to them on a certain level, I think they have that little bit of respect. They won't push the boat out with you.
Yeah, I think so. And I suppose when I went into that line of work initially, a couple of the guys, friends around me, so that suits you on the ground. You're messing yourself. You where they're coming from. I think it does. You're right. And most of the guys I work with would be that way inclined as well. And I think it's the lads kind of in the house feel that vibe off you, that it's not serious all the time. I think that's how it works, really.
What are your thoughts, Graham, there's a lot of people giving out, and geez, we're a great fucking country for giving out. Like, what are your thoughts? And we were just discussing it before we came on there. What are your thoughts about the championship and it going through November? And look, I don't care. My attitude is, fellas will have problems with. I personally think that the inter-county season is too long, and it doesn't matter if you have 3 months or 12 months, it's still too long, no matter what. But what are your thoughts of actually seeing club action and inter-county action as long as there's no hiccups along the way?
I think it's fantastic. I think it's great to see us back up and going again. My son, he's 16. He went back training this evening. That's fantastic. Because they've been waiting for the last couple of months to do something, and it's finally here. I suppose we're going to have a different championship this year where it's knockout and it's going to extend into, I suppose, the winter months. And I don't know whether you would have played in the old league format, where we would have played from October up to Christmas in the old league format, and then 3 or 4 games afterwards. And I enjoyed probably that format, because it did give players a break over the winter as well, and resume then in March. But it's going to be an exciting championship. It probably will suit other teams better. So it's something that we're looking forward to. It's great to see football coming back again.
Yeah, I think there was an opportunity. A lot of people are giving out about the fact that there is no backdoor for the football and that there is for the hurling. Yeah. And I think that there was an opportunity lost because there probably was a chance that you could have a backdoor if you had an open draw of 32 where it could just flow in 4 or 5 weekends, and that would give you the extra 2 or 3 weekends. Do you think, and you're probably like myself, you can't enjoy the Leinster Championship the way I haven't enjoyed the Munster Championship for the last 6 or 7 years. Do you think it was an opportunity lost by the GAA?
I think so. Listen, Leinster has been one way of traffic for the last 10 years, but I remember the first game I was ever at for me was the Centenary Cup final back in '84. And that was done, I think, on an open draw championship basis. And if it was done any other way, you wouldn't have had Meath and Monaghan in the final anyway. I think, like, what better? You said it's a great opportunity to try something different. If you had an open draw, you could have had Kerry and Dublin playing the first round, or Kerry and Galway, or Kerry and Mayo. You know, it would have given probably some of the so-called second tier teams a better chance of getting to the knockouts there, or the semi-finals or final. You might have seen Kerry or Dublin being knocked out earlier. It's I think it was an opportunity missed to try something different. But listen, I suppose that there are the critics there that want to see the Leinster Championship or the Munster Championship, or provincial championship staying. But for me, really, there's the probably only provincial championship left is probably the Ulster Championship, really, that it is competitive, and the rest of them you can nearly pick the winner before the season even starts. But yeah, it is an opportunity missed. I agree with you there totally. But at Crow Park, probably looking at it differently.
Yeah, sure. Like, looking at it from the outside, right? And I guarantee you, there's a pile of good work being done in the likes of Meath, in the likes of Kildare, in the likes of even Wicklow. Like, a lot of people would, I think, population. If you have the numbers, then you kind of have to look at yourself and the way you organise things to make sure that these comes through at club level and all that. Can you give me a kind of a picture of where you think Meath are at? Is there work coming through and it will take a couple of more years? How would you think the gap started, or how was it that Meath kind of fell off the pecking order?
Yeah, it's probably hard to put your finger on it, but I'd say the underage system was probably neglected in Meath for a long time. Like, we've had, going back probably from 1990 onwards, probably for 7 or 8 years, we'd had great underage teams, and there really didn't have to be any work done with them. Like, we won a minor in 1990, won a minor again in '92. We won another 21 in '93, and we had before that we probably 3 or 4 Leinster titles on the 21 level, and we haven't got near that at that level since. But I think after that, then it just seemed to dry up, and we neglected probably our underage structure and system, and that over the last 15 years we haven't been really, probably once or twice getting to a semi-final, but we haven't been in a final since 2001. So it's a long time, and for the size of the county of Meath and the population we have, we probably should be a bit more competitive than we are. I think over the last number of years we probably have made strides forward a little bit. We've got up to Division 1, even though, like, if the league had to finish this year, they would have been relegated probably. But I don't know how way that stands now. Are they going to just leave it the way it is and have the same structure next year? But I think we're a long way off where we should be. I can't see the players coming through at that minor level or on the 21 level. It's the players just not there at the minute, or the infrastructure is probably not there. I know they've been doing a lot of work in the backgrounds over the last number of years, but we're just playing catch up all the time with some of the bigger counties.
Do you think it's easier for players, like when they see the likes of Dublin and the dominance they have? Do you think it's easier for players to say, "Fuck this, I'm not putting in the commitment, or I'm not going to bother getting involved in a serious level because it's not actually worth it at this stage"?
Oh, I think so. Like I know, like, if you look at Kerry and Galway, Mayo, the big Donegal, the big teams, they have something to fight for because they're going to be competitive. But if you're playing with some of the the lesser known teams, or the Division 4, 3 and 4 teams, they're not realistically going to be in any chance of winning the All-Ireland or even a provincial championship. I mean, you'd have to wonder, and you can understand why a lot of those players will defect or go on holidays, or take a year out. I know this year probably will be slightly different because they won't be travelling or won't be going to the States, so it might benefit some of the weaker counties. But you know, it's we've seen it a few years ago with Paddy O'Rourke from Meath, like one of the top goalkeepers in the country, and he just, you know, said, "Listen, I've enough. Like, we're not going to be competitive," and you know, he opted to retire at, I don't know what age, it was 20, 27 or 28.
Yeah, I've always admired. I found it very strange. Like people would come up clapping you on the back and say, "Jesus, how would you do it? How would you put in all the effort and the time?" And you were part of a very successful meet, a few very successful meet teams, and it was easier for you to actually put in the time and put in the effort because you knew you were going to be thereabouts, or you knew you were going to be inside in a packed
Yeah,
core park. And Jesus Christ, when you look at some of the weaker teams and you fucking see the buy-in that they give, like, and knowing full well that they're not going to. It's a freaking tough. So that man want to talk.
yeah. This man wants to talk. Say hello, Tomás. Hello. Say hello, Tomás.
Hello, you'd probably talk more sense than the two of us put together.
Well, that's funny, but yeah, but like the difference was, I wanted to be there, you wanted to be there, and you know, you'd give your right arm to play for your county, and we did all growing up from when I was, you know, able to kick the ball. That's all you really wanted to do was to play for me. And it's that has changed now. Like the attitude of players is, you know, it can give it or take it, you know, and you know, even at club level, I was looking after a couple of teams over the last number of years there, and you know, come up to the week before probably championship. Oh, I won't be around next week. I'm going to America or I'm going off for the summer. So I think like the commitment's not there. From I think they have a different mentality. You know, they can live with it. You know, you know they're often out. You know, traveling and big high profile players. And when younger players see that, you know, they tend to, you know, follow suit as well. So it's difficult for, I suppose, you know, it's okay probably with the top teams, they will stick around because there's something to fight for. But if you're managing, say, the likes of Longford, Offaly, or, you know, you put Leeds probably into that loud, you know, if they're not going to be around, you know, Leinster finals or you know, the knockout stages, you know, they're going to head off the summer because, you know, they're getting, I suppose, a few quid for heading off to America, and you can't blame them. But you know, you probably had the opportunity. I had the opportunity to travel as well when I was young, and didn't take it. So you know, we were always delighted to stay around and play if you're county. And there's nothing better running out and, you know, the sun, whether it was rain or sunshine. You know, you always want to be there and head out and represent the county. And you know, it's the same drive. I don't think is there with the younger players now. The more interested
Yeah,
probably on Instagram or social media than, you know, I suppose watching themselves lifting weights in the gym. That's the thing we see them all at the minute, but it's 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 hard to see where, you know, it's going to go for a lot of the weaker counties.
yeah. It's. I was just thinking there, because we were lucky that Instagram and the social media and the Twitter wasn't around when we were in our pomp. I'd say it
Yeah,
was
we're lucky
a
to have a
blessing in
mobile phone.
disguise, Graham. I think. I think we
Yeah.
learn as we go along. Come here. Can I ask you about when you were growing up? You said you were mad, and it was a dream of yours to play with Meath and all that. But you were obviously talented at other sports. But was it always football for you?
Initially, when I was playing, the first grade was so bad. We had north because that was the first, I suppose, competitive game or level you were at. Before that, I was always into athletics and it was like since cross country, anything that was going every Sunday we were on. Uh, so that was my first love, and then started playing football then with the local club, Manchestown, and I suppose I took off from there. Got in with the under 14, then with the Meath team, and I was lucky enough, I suppose, that I had the same bunch of lads that were over the teams from under 12 right up to under 21 level. They kind of brought that team from that level up to under 21s and won a couple of our Irelands then along the way. And I think that was probably a lot of, you know, you could put a lot of Meath success down to those 5 or 6 guys that, you know, were looking after those teams because they had the structure there. Um, they knew the players inside out. Obviously, you were bringing different lads in and out every year, but you know they were left in charge, and you know there was no chopping and changing. You know, every couple of years. I think that has a lot to do with uh, I suppose county team success as well. You've a manager, if he doesn't do something in his first year, then they're looking to sack him. So like it does take time to to build a team, and we've seen that with numerous top teams over the years. Like Sean Boylan was there for probably 4 or 5 years before he even done anything. So I think you need time, but yeah, it's interesting times ahead, I suppose, this year anyway.
I was the Meath team of the 80s. The Meath battles, that was my earliest memories, really. I remember the tail end of Kerry in 85 and 86, 84, 85, 86. But then 87 to 90, you had the battles between you, the two Meath wins, and then you had the two Cork wins. Were you a big supporter that time? Did you go to the matches?
Yeah.
Were you following that team?
Yeah, we would have been at all those games. My dad kind of used to either a van from work used to throw us all into the back. There's probably about 20 of us heading up to Crow Park every weekend. And there were great times because, like, we knew going to Crow Park, we were in with a great chance of winning, which was fantastic going. And going through all those different games those years, it was always so close to meeting up and fantastic games. And I suppose to finally break through in '87 after such a long wait, was fantastic. And then to win the following year again, I suppose it was the old Sam and the new Sam, so that was the big thing, I suppose, at that time. But like you have to probably hand it to Cork as well. They were a fantastic side. Like they were in 4 All-Ireland finals in a row, and I know they won 2, but very unlucky to not win 4 because those games against Meath and one that went to a replay, they were fantastic. I actually played in a minor final against. We actually played Kerry in 1990 minor final, and it was fantastic having your senior team playing after because there was a huge crowd in, and I suppose that was really our first taste of success. But to grow up kind of watching those players and to see, I suppose the laudits they were getting and the applause, it was something to drive you on as well. And I would have played them a lot of those players after that, so it was it was fantastic times for me.
I was going to ask you when you came in, and I go back in a second. When you came in, you had the likes of O'Rourke and Flynn and Robbie O'Malley, Stafford, Colm Kyle, all of like Martin O'Connell. They were all still there when you started off and kicked off. Like, what was it like coming into the dressing room? Were you a quiet lad? Were you a confident young fella coming in? At that stage, you were well established at underage.
Yeah, it was still kind of, I went in 1990, so I was still minor. Sean brought me in, as I said earlier, in those couple of months, before Christmas, where the old league was played. So I came in. He said, "I'll bring you in probably just to give you a taste." And I spoke to him later about it, and he actually brought me in for 3 months and then let me back down to the minors. But I remember walking in the first time. I didn't kind of keeping himself, put me bag down in front of me. I was trying to get my boots out of my bag, and I seen these 2 feet in front of me, and I said, "Oh, geez, who's this now?" I looked up, and it was Liam Harlan, and he was probably one of the hardest men in the game at that stage. He goes, "That's my seat." So I just picked up. I said, "All right," picked up my bag and just moved over there where there was nobody near me. But yeah, it was interesting times. I probably would have had it. I come back in then the following September then again, and it was after the 91 loss then to Down. So Down beat them by 2 points there in the final. So I came in October. So it was probably 3 or 4 weeks after the final, and it was quite difficult trying to break into the team because I there probably for 3 years before I played my first championship match. But you were taking your life into your hands going training that time because some of them were coming to the end of their career. They were fighting hang on to their place, and these younger lads coming in then trying to make a name for themselves. So it was tough. Like it was up in hair flying nearly every night.
I was just going to say there were no meat or renowned for being harsh. Like I said, John McDermott was still there. Kyle, did you ever have any run-ins with Kyle on the pitch? Because I thought he could.
Oh, I did, and it wasn't in Paraton, and it was back home on our own pitch because we were club mates. So he used to come back. I remember one guy. He lives he's from Roscommon, but he lives in Athboy here beside me now. And he says, "Geez, I remember going training one night." He says, and he says, Kyle was after coming back from Meath, and it was probably, around, it was obviously championship time anyway. He says, and you were flying with the minors from the 21s. He said, and you were trying to get the better of him, and he was trying to get the better of you. And then he says, all hell broke loose. He says, and there's a big brawl in the middle of the field, which that was just us probably trying to one to get up or one up on the other. But yeah, it was like football was different that time. You were able to, again, a skirmish with a fella and get away with it. If you look at a fella crooked now, you have a black card or something. But yeah, there were good times, good tough football, and I know you had Kieran in last week, and before every championship match, I think Oisin might have told you this over the years. Before every championship match, we used to play Armagh in a challenge, and it was either in Paraton or up in Armagh somewhere, and it always, the whistle was blowing at the start of the game. I think that was it, because it was World War III. It used to be rows everywhere. I think anytime fella touched the ball, he was milled out, and I think that was to prepare us for the championship. I remember Oisin, he was telling a story one time. He said he got the ball in the first minute, he said, and he got a wrap off someone and whatever else, and he was kind of running, trying to get away from it after that. But that's, it was I suppose the hardening up for championship football and the digs you were going to get. But obviously things have changed an awful lot since then anyway.
I was ringing and you were good buddies with him. And he's a good laugh burner, Phil. And I was telling him, geez, we were talking about something else, and I was telling him, geez, I'm going on with Graham there the next night, and he says, Jesus, he says, I was inside in a nightclub years ago, he says, and Graham came up to me as a young fella, as a 16-year-old, and he says, I was the man at the time, and he says, this fella come up, he says, I'll be better than you, boy. You won't lace my fucking boots in a few years. You're dead right. Is that true?
I think, well, there was a couple of different stories to that. We were talking about it there last week. I was out with him, and
he reckons you're quite the connoisseur of the red wine.
Yeah, well, he is. Yeah, he is. I think once you drink a bottle or two, everybody's a connoisseur, so it all tastes the same. But yeah, I think what happened that night, we were actually playing minor, and he was after playing, and it was a semi-final. I think they played Leash. He got sent off. I think it was Dempsey was his name. He gave him a box in the corner, and we arrived up to the nightclub that night. So we were after winning. We were delighted with ourselves, and all the Meath players were over in the corner. So I didn't know Barrett that well, but he was one of our idols growing up, and he was a fantastic player. And I went over to him and, tried to make a bit of, I suppose, loose talk with him. And then I said to him, well, how are you after stay? Have you any black eyes or what? And then he got thick, and a few of them then kind of shunned me a bit then after that. But and I went into the Meath team then shortly after that, so it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy going in there for 3 or 4 of them probably wouldn't talk to you. But I was talking to Madeline, Bernard's wife there, on the same night, and she was telling the story, and she had a different version of it as well. So I think if we put them all together, we might get the right story out of it. But
I was looking at old footage, and yourself and Moynihan. I remember in '93, you won the under-21, and yourself and Moynihan were probably the 2 best young players in the country at the time. I remember it well. And Paddy was in charge of the Kerry under-21s at the time, and Dara, I think Dara was very young. He was still a minor, but he was in with the under-21. So that was the first time we were actually carried. Yeah, and he was under-21 for 4 years. But I remember that day, and Jesus, you bossed it from half back. Were you always a half back, Graham, when you were all coming up through the ranks at underage?
Yeah, I would have at club level. I played at I suppose county level. I always played wing back or centre back. Yeah, so most of the time I played there, Sean Boylan then kind of pushed me up front then after the 90 or 96 he put me up there. He fed up racing up the field, getting back. Leave there and see what we can do there. Yeah, also McBrae would have been Daniel the centre back minor and as well. You know, like we played Kerry in the minor final and the under 21 3 years apart, and we had 13 of the same team that played minor that won the
previous
the
one 3 years
21
ago.
final.
Yeah, jeez, it was fair going.
Yeah.
Like, can I ask you about Boylan? Jesus, Boylan, like, and I've met him, and he's a gentleman, like, and I was always, every time I've met him, and I had to come to the conclusion, like, and it's the same with Mickey Hart. I had to come to the conclusion, Jesus Christ, he is an actual gentleman. How in the name of Christ does he put the teams out and that they'd nearly kill all around him, like? And this man then, like, you had great time for him, Graham. What was it about Sean Boylan, like?
He just kind of had that aura around him. You know, he's one of these guys that, you know, if he come over to you and he says, "Listen, Tomás, I want to go over and see that fellow there. I need you to, you know, shoot him," and you said, "All right, Tom, okay." And then you're walking away and said, "Did he really mean that or whatever?" Like, but he just had the knack. That's probably not the best analogy, whatever. But he just had a knack of getting his point across and getting players to do stuff that they normally wouldn't do or play above themselves. But he reinvented lads as well. So it was like I was playing lobby football wing back and he took me up wing forward, then in full forward. Colin Coyle was the same. He was all over the place. So he played cornerback, half back, corner forward. Played nearly Martin O'Connell played in every position for me, including goals. Donald Curtis played cornerback, played corner forward. Brendan Riley. So he had the knack kind of looking at players and getting the best out of them. And he was probably for his time, like he was probably a genius, really. And different than Mick O'Dwyer probably in Kerry. Like he just was able to get lads to do that little bit extra and get the best out of them. So like some of the training sessions we were at, and you'd be doing ridiculous stuff, and we were like, "What are we doing here?" But like obviously, it paid off in the long run for some of us. Was like I remember
what would the strange you? Yeah, go on.
We were going training one night, and next thing we took out a tennis ball, and we started playing football with the tennis ball, like and it was like why are we doing this? And but not there and then, but like obviously after. But it was all kind of like hand-eye coordination and that kind of stuff. For years back in '86, that time we used to play a lot of basketball and training down in Gormiston College. Before that, then he had, I suppose, the old Meath team, '87, '88, when they were getting on. They trained a lot in the pool with buoyancy jackets on them. So if you weren't running the pool, you were sinking it. So it was all kind of he was doing stuff kind of ahead of his time, really, as well. And it's. I remember one time, I think it was Ed McManus had shin splints, and it would have been '99, and I was the captain. He called me over. He said, "Oh, Enda's not great. Like I'm going to send him off to Spain for the week." He says. I said, I think my calf is at me. I said, I might go and mind them. But listen, Enda was probably the safest fella to send because he didn't drink anyway, so he wouldn't be up to any harm. But yeah, I think it was the warm weather and something to do with the salt water and everything. But listen, Enda finished the season. He was fine, and it was just things like that. We played rugby and training a lot of times. Just probably to get that physical aspect of it as well. And then obviously, like we were up in the Hill of Tara for I don't know many seasons, like so. That made a mania.
I was I remember one year I got a bit of a, I don't know what it was. It was a mental thing. I just felt dead in myself and somebody, I just came into my head one day. I gave Boylan a ring. He was a herbalist, and I gave him a call, and he sent me down some stuff anyway, and it was whatever. Like, and I was, did you ever? I actually found it good. I don't know what it was. It was some sort of a stuff. It didn't taste too nice. I often wondered, like,
No.
would he give you stuff for stuff after a match, like in terms of a hangover or anything?
Oh yeah,
Would he?
yeah. We used to, I suppose, after every training session, we used to kind of probably a little bottle like that, and it would be, I suppose, mixed herbs, and we wouldn't know what dandelions or nettles or anything. You wouldn't know what was in it. But we used to just put a bit of blackcurrant in. It was just to give you a bit of boost, or like give you a bit of energy. It's probably like the energy drinks you get now. Like, it's a lot of lads didn't like it. If you were injured, it was different stuff for you. It was all kind of herbal stuff anyway, as far as I know. Anyway, But yeah, no, it's like he was fantastic at that. No matter what he was able to tell
Yeah,
you. I remember going. It was I I broke my leg when I was 9, and I had one leg shorter than the other, but slightly, and it would always kind of throw your back off so much. And it was up by the anyway, and he just took off my backs, whatever, to stand there. He says, and yes, I know exactly what's wrong with you. He didn't even touch me, like he just knew by looking at people, but he just he's that knack, and I suppose the players that he surround himself with then as well would kind of would die from, and that was kind of the secret probably behind a lot of the Meath success, that they would actually give everything. It was for him really. It wasn't at the end like you go to hell and back from. It wasn't for Meath or whatever. It was, listen, let's do this for Sean, lads, or whatever. And he was, I don't know what year it was. He was stepping away, and a few of us went to him then, just asked him to, more or less begged him to stay on, like, because you know when he left, then it left a huge void after that. Like, probably had we'd probably 4 or 5 managers in the space of 7 or 8 years, which is not good. Like, but
yeah.
yeah, it was just
I remember in '96. I was a minor in '96, Graham, and he obviously won the All Ireland, and that was the infamous the row and I don't know what you remember, and people I suppose don't actually remember. But back in those days, on the Monday after the All Ireland, there was a meal, there was a banquet
mm,
inside in Jew or in the Burlington, and I remember we were the minor team. We lost to Laois in '96, and we went in there for the meal afterwards. And I remember you were after drawing, so there wasn't a lot of, you weren't beering, or there was no kind of. I think it
yeah.
finished soon after that. But did you have any input the following day into that infamous scrap that actually broke out? It was, I remember I saw Boylan describing it in your thing. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, where Keepak had over at a World Food Fair, and that they were describing, this is what you do, this is what you get if you eat
Yeah,
if you eat
yeah.
beef.
If you eat
If you eat
Keepak beef, this is what it does. Yeah,
Keepak leaf.
I'll see that. Yeah, I
But it
suppose.
was like, it was surreal, like, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think I suppose there was a couple of those players from both sides didn't speak for years after that. Colin Kyle and Liam McHale probably were, two of the main guys on the day when both of them got sent off. But we were at one of the GPA. It was only there a couple of years ago, and it could have been 20 years after the game. I think that was the first time then they had spoken, kind of, we could more or less kind of made them talk to each other. But silly stuff, like, and you know,
I know.
like, when you think back, I know it probably looked a lot worse than it was really. There was a lot of lads swinging and throwing legs and everything, but I think there were probably only, I'd say, 3 or 4 punches that probably landed properly on anybody. So there was lads getting half a scalp and lying down then for 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, it was unfortunate probably, and Mayo would have seen himself probably coming out the worst of it with Lee McHale being sent off. He man the match in the drawing game, and You know, to lose the talisman like him early on would have probably been harder for them, you know.
Well, that was and it kind of took away. That was your first All Ireland, and the first All Ireland is huge, and it's massive, and it shouldn't have taken away from it. But that first All Ireland, now then, did you get a kind of a belief? Do you know what? We could fucking keep doing this. We're good enough to keep going.
We
Like,
did, yeah, and like we were still relatively young. We're all kind of in our like early to mid 20s, like, and you know, we had a fantastic side, and you know, going out the next year, then you know, it's just the whole thing just seemed to fall apart. Like we got back to a Leinster final and awfully beat as well in the final. Ryan Malone kind of ran riot that day, but you know, not taken away from Offaly's win. Like we were probably missing, you know, I think 5 or 6 of our best players that day through injury or suspension. So it was, you know, we had a whole new full back line, new centre back. I think we 5 of our backs were gone and a wing forward. So it was hard to, you know, fill that void in one game. You know, if we're missing 2, 3, maybe we might have been competitive. But you know, not taken away from Offaly. They were fantastic on the day and you know, deserved to win it on the day. But I thought now that we were around for a few years that we would have, you know, probably done a little bit more of that team than we did. But like you know more than anybody, like every game is different, every year is different, and it's very hard to, you know, keep the momentum going and keep things fresh. But it just didn't happen then for a year or two, you know.
yeah, it was the like there was no backdoor back then as well, and it was straight knockout. And
No,
it was
yeah,
like that time, Graham. Yeah, and you've always said it. You always loved the big occasion. There was nothing bigger. Like everybody
yeah,
thought, Jesus, going up to play the Dubs in Dublin is daunting and everything. Jesus Christ, we love going up there. We actually love going
yeah,
in there. You must have been the same. Like it was like sure it was only
yeah.
a short journey down for you. You travelled the same day and everything, did you?
Yeah, yeah, we did, yeah. And I suppose that was probably better for us as well because, you know, at the time we used to have our breakfast in the county club. The crowd were starting to gather outside. Like from early on, you got that big kind of championship vibe, and you know, going in, you know, we used to get a police escort in because the crowd's coming back out nearly as far as Dunshaughlin that time, and you know, it was fantastic. That was just a whole kind of a big build up for, you know, the games, and you know there was nothing better than playing Dublin, and I remember the first time I would have played against them, I marked Niall Guyton, and you know the team meeting before or the night before, this is Tom Rourke, this is your job, you mark him, you don't have to do nothing else, just make sure that he doesn't do it because he was probably one of the star forwards at the time and had a lot of pace, and I was lucky enough I had that as well. So uh, I ended up getting man of the match that year, and I think I scored 1-2 from wing back. And I remember the last thing Pat Reynolds said to me was supposed to be Paddy's father. Um,
Yeah.
he was a select at the time, and he was saying, "Yes, Graham, if you go forward, you just give the ball to somebody else. Don't shoot." He says, like I got man of the match. I might have scored 1-2, and I was nearly like Kieran Donny. I said, how'd you like that, Pat? You know, but it was. I suppose that was the start of probably, you know, a lot of the good things, I suppose, for me going forward, and it kind of gave me that belief that you were able to, you know, get on the end of things. And you played, I suppose, wing back in all your life, and there's probably no better place to play because, you know, when you can sneak up the field, you're not being watched all the time. Uh, you know, you're given that little bit of extra space. So, you know, it does. I used to love playing there because there was no one pulling and dragging you. But half hour of football, then somebody else hanging out of you. But you had that bit of a freedom there, and I enjoyed that for a couple of years.
I was I had it, and I used to have awful deep chats. There was a time there where, yeah, fuck it, we call it the red mist would come down, right? And you just lash out and you'd react
Mm.
or you'd fucking do something. And afterwards you said, Jesus Christ. I'd often say, like, do you know, and I think back about it, like, and some people say, why didn't you stop? Like, I couldn't stop in the middle of it. It's hard to actually kind of pull yourself back and stop. But I do think that if I didn't have that part of my game, that I wouldn't have been the player that I was either. Would you agree with that? Like, you had to have that kind of edge about you as well.
Yeah. I remember a guy called Brian Smith, kind of, that time, even though he was like kind of the college thing, kind of to us, whatever. Yeah, copy with him, and he'd what's going through your mind? He says, when you do this or when you whatever or whatever. I don't know. That just goes blank. Like you just, you feel it, the whole world's against you nearly or whatever, and it's as you said, it's hard to pull back. But like that as well, like Sean would often get on to me as well, and he says, "Listen, we don't want to take that out of you because that's what makes you as a player and gives you whatever bit of player you have, and draws players to you, so it leaves, some of the other players free. But I think when I got older, then coming to the end of my career, kind of this copped on a little bit, but it was too late then at that stage. But it's like looking back, like, and we'd analyze games no more than anybody else, I suppose. The next week, and you'd be sitting back, and you'd know something was coming. You'd be sitting down in the chair, and you'd be at the head up, and it's, oh, I know what's coming now, and then you just see a fella turn around, and he just look at you. He didn't have to say anything; just a look was enough, like or the ball could be brought up, 10 yards, but and 10 yards is 20 yards, so and then it was into a kickable position, and then the score, the free comes off it, and you just, this is why did I do that, or but you said at the time, it's difficult to pull out of these things. It's like a sliding tackle when you're halfway through it. You can't pull out. But,
I was going this was 99 Graham the highlight of the whole lot, being captain and everything.
I think so. Yeah, it'd have to be, yeah. And I suppose we really came under the radar that year. There was nothing really expected of us. There was no drama all year. I kind of had made kind of a promise myself, kind of nearly just to try and behave myself on the pitch and not get into any trouble. I think for the most part of the year, I only picked up one yellow card all year, which was great for me, like, and played 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 well kind of throughout the year, and I was happy with it. This was the big thing then for me, kind of, there was a couple of things I would have practiced all year, and they came off, in the final, which I suppose, kicking with my left foot. Eamon O'Brien, who was the selector and then went on to be manager after that, he was always on to me. Like, I told he begged me all year, kick with your left foot, try to practice this and practice that. And he ended up then getting 2 points in the final with it. And, it was, and he came up to me after the game and he says, "Now, wasn't it worth it?" But, it was a great year. It was a great year for me, I suppose, and my family and my club. And, as I remember that year, and it had pros and cons, I suppose, as well, where, you'd be delighted enough to accept the cup up in the stand and for everybody else, but that didn't happen that year. The presenting the cup in the middle of the pitch. But afterwards, then I brought it right around Croke Park, and I got to meet, I suppose, people that I wouldn't have never met that were involved in my career with Centrestown from when I was under 12s, and to share that with them, it was fantastic. And go back then to my own village of Kentstown, and there probably was about 10,000 people there, kind of waiting. It was fantastic, and those are things that you'll always have, and we'll always remember. I suppose, I had my daughter in the cup. She was only one at the time, and when I see her now, and you'd say, Jesus, is it that long since we won? She's 22 now in September, so it's hard to believe, it's that long since we've been there, or won one. I know we were beaten in the 2001 by Cork as well, but that was probably one of the biggest disappointments, So it's
Yeah.
not Cork, sorry, Galway. Galway.
Jesus Christ, Kerry, did you know favours that day?
No,
The semi-final, because that was one of the worst days ever. It was a strange day. I was suspended. We beat the Dublin down Thurles, and I think Kerry only scored 5 points the same day against Meath.
5 points. Yeah, and I remember even going through that game, and it was so weird. Like, and you know, there was no like Kerry never could go at all. There was no bite from them, and we were going on. I don't know. I think Cormac Murphy was beside me, or something. I said, like, it's happening, is it? Like, what's going on? Like, and it was strange. And even after the game, like I said, like, it's I think it was 15 points in it to finish, and it was just so surreal. Like, and then like got into the final, it didn't do us any favors really. Like, I know ourselves, you wouldn't saying this, and it's a good always side. We need to just do our best here and do our homework and make sure we're not caught. But we were like, we never turned up on the day. I know Ollie Murphy went off, injured, broke a finger, and Nigel Nestor I think got sent off, but it that had no real bearing on the outcome. Like, for guys, the master class in the second half, I think he scored 9 points in the second half and really bet us on his own. But it was a funny game because we weren't playing well. I'm only, I think, 2 points down at half time. I remember going in and saying, listen, this, we're not playing at all. We're still in the game, so it's not gone. So, just let's, work ourselves up here and get out and start playing a bit. But it just went downhill, really. And once they got a run on us, and probably something similar to the Kerry game, when we got on top of Kerry, it just didn't happen. It didn't fire for them. We were the same. But just no matter what we done, it just went wrong. Everything went wrong. But it was a fantastic performance from Galway to keep us out of the game.
I think there was a lot of teams around that time, Graham, that could actually win All Ireland. Like, there were the teams in the north. There was Meath. There was Galway. There was Kerry. Dublin hadn't arrived that time. Can I ask you? It's totally flipping it, and we've had a night out or 2 nights out, and we've had a laugh and all that. The social side of it, like you actually, you toured, and I'd say it was an experience for you in itself. You toured Dubai with the All Stars when Paddy was in charge of a team there. But the social side of that was actually, I remember, was it Dara that was telling me that the lads had a connecting flight, and Liam Hassett was there as well, and they got on the flight, and Paddy just said to Dara when he got onto the flight, he says, Jesus Christ, he says, Hassett is coming there. He says, whatever else you do, pretend you're asleep, because if he catches eye contact with you, we're all dead. Like, he was in that form, But those tours and those trips were great crack.
They were unbelievable. And that one in Dubai, Kerry were after Paddy, and there was the Gooch was with them. Ara, there was probably 7 or 8 on it. They were after. You were after obviously winning the All-Ireland, so you were on the team holiday out in Thailand.
Oh yeah.
They came over to Dubai, and remember, Amanda still talks about it to this day. Like, we were probably about 10 o'clock in the morning. We were sitting out by the pool, and Audie's sitting there with a few of the Kerry lads, and they're drinking bottles of Heineken. And Amanda says, Jesus, they're drinking very early, aren't they? He says, I tell you one thing, my girl, he says, they'll drink from now and they'll drink till Christmas, and then that'll be it, he says. They won't. And he was probably right. And I think he was after, he says, how'd you get on in Thailand? And he says, we had a great trip, he says, and there's a suitcase up there full of watches. He says, one for all the boys in the pub. He says, he was after buying watches in Thailand for them. But he don't have to tell you, what a character he was, and great to be around and listen to the stories kind of his era. They were great trips though. Even a lot of the All-Stars. I played in America as well, and would have played with Sean Cavan in America, and you really only get to kind of know lads that way, and phenomenal player, and we won a North American title out there as well, but it's it's when you go away and you meet these great guys. Like, you know, we were in New York there a few years ago, and you know, I mean that wouldn't know. There was 50 players brought out, a mixture of hurlers and footballers, and played the game. And you know, the fun thing about it that day was Martin Comerford was probably the best footballer we had. He was playing with so didn't help that they brought us out on Thursday and the game was Sunday, and then this and that. You can have a drink, but don't go overboard. The rest is history anyway. But yeah, we were seriously contemplating bringing Martin Comerford into Meath to play midfield after that. Didn't work out.
No, it was actually one of the best trips ever. It was hilarious, and poor old Brian Mullins was in charge of one team, and I'd say he was aghast at what was going on around him. But that stuff, like Graham, like you're a Meath team, like you still go away on trips and you go to watch rugby matches and all that, like that bond and that kind of. It's great, like, because in the GAA, like, you stick with lads and you go off golfing with lads or whatever, like, and it's the bonds that form from kind of trips like that and occasions like that.
I suppose that's the 87, 88 team are probably better than that. Like, but we do meet up now and again, and I think it's like, you know, you fought hard with them lads, and you know, you die for them on the field, and you know, it's nice to keep in contact afterwards. I know you don't see them probably as often as you should, but you know, when you do meet up, you're reminiscing about different things that happened over the years. But you know, looking back and you know, there were great times. You know, and hopefully, you know, we'll have some more in the future as well.
Yeah, before I leave you off there, I'd have to ask, like, because I remember at the time the soccer, Graham, and I know you went over to Arsenal. And I'll ask you about that in a second. But were you playing at a club level? How did they spot you? Were you playing with a club in Meath at the time, or what was the story?
No, I was playing very little soccer at the time because Meath were going well. We had to come from another 21 campaign in '93, so I wasn't really playing much. I played with Kensington Rovers, a small village where I was from. We had a decent enough side, but it all came about from that game I was telling you about, Dublin. I scored 1-2 from wing back, and Alex Ferguson was at the game, and it was him. He was interviewed after the game. It was him that commented that he liked the way that how you kind of mixed defense with attack, and that, you know, was very fit, and you know, I suppose he was just saying kind of, you know, stuff that people wanted to hear, I suppose, anyway. But a couple of weeks after that, then I got a phone call from a scout from Arsenal in Dublin, and asked him to see me, and I had a chat with him, and then I wouldn't say I decided to go over. Obviously, I was going to take the chance and go, and I was delighted going over. But I suppose it was a huge thing for me because I wouldn't have had the soccer background. You know, everybody else had probably gone over to England, and that was kind of playing on me a small bit, really, that, you know, I probably shouldn't be here when there's other young guys that are far better players than I am. But, you know, when I was there, I thought I'd done quite well. I played in 2 games and obviously trained then, you know, every day as well. But it was, I was there a couple of weeks at that stage, and I asked then, I think it was George Armstrong. He was a Scottish international. He was over the second team at the time, and I asked him kind of where was he and what was the crack, because it was you know, it's now silly now. There was one of my club mates was getting married, I think, a few days after that, and I was getting home for the wedding. So he says, you're good in the air, you're very fit. He says your first touch is probably letting you down. So that was it. He came home then a couple of days after that. I think at the time they were looking to replace Lee Dixon at right full, and he played for about 7 or 8 years after that then. You know, but I really enjoyed it. I played with some great players over there.
Were you training with the first team, Graham? Were you mixing with the boys?
No, some of them. I was with the reserves. Now some of them were coming in and out. Ray Parler, I played with him. Martin Keown, Paul Davis, he would have been coming to the end of his career. He was a right full. He was there. The only guy that was coming up from, who was, coming out of the academy, or he was probably maybe 18 at that time, was Paul Dickoff. He was playing the reserves, and he went on then to play with Arsenal and Man City then after that. So he's probably really the only guy that came out of that those letters. But really enjoyable. Back here and played a bit with Bowles, played a bit with Strada. Not a whole lot after that, Once didn't, make it to the big time.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, it'd be all right, wouldn't it? Was there any Irish over there at the time?
Not really. Who was there? Eddie McGoldrick was there at the time. Yeah, he was the only. You think he was the only Irish guy that was there? Yeah.
Christ, now that it's popped up in my head, the soccer and the Aussie Rules, like, and you had a fierce career at the Aussie Rules. Like, the one thing I loved about you was when you were running, you were actually full speed, but you seemed like you were gliding, right? But at the other side of the Aussie Rules, anyway, and it's awful to say, like, but people used to go to the Aussie Rules because they'd love to see a fucking scrap, right? But how? Yeah. And I know that, Jesus Christ, what they did to you above in Croke Park and pull you to the ground, like, but in the parade before the game, right? And I've been there, like, and I've been to the Aussie Rules, and these fellas are fucking huge. Like, when they were roaring across at you that they were going to kill you, what was going through your head?
Oh, I was just waiting for the whistle to be blown so I could keep running around the pitch. But it was funny, like, there was an incident down in Galway. That's what kind of led to the whole situation all week. Like, if you were going to get someone, you'd kind of keep it quiet. Like, they were coming out in the paper saying they were going to kill me or whatever. And when we were coming out on the pitch, there was two guys standing on the line waiting for me. And Paul Gavel was in front of me, and he's come behind me, and I said, right, grand. So he kind of minded me, like, he just burst out through the two boys, like, get the fuck out of the way, he said, and just I ran out behind them, and that was it. But I didn't last too long after. I knew they were going to park me, whatever, but the way it happened, it
was a sly. Jesus Christ, the way they pulled you to the ground, like.
It was probably a freak thing as well, because I ended up banging my head off the ground, and I, wrap your hands around it. I couldn't get my arms out, so I had no protection, so I just came straight down on the ground, and that was it. The scary thing about it was when I woke up in the ambulance afterwards, and Mocky Regan was looking in at me. That was the worst thing. Anybody that doesn't know, Mocky Regan was a masseuse for Meath for 20 years, and he was involved with the Irish rugby team and soccer team. Great character, though. He just looked at me and he said, "You all right?" I said, "Right." Yeah, that was it. But,
oh my God.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
No, but they were fantastic. Out and games, and so I know they got a bit rough by times, but as you said, that's what people wanted to see. That's why they were there, and I think it was 90 or 2006 was it? There was really kind of went over the board. I think Sean was over the team actually that time, but it got really, really aggressive that time, and I think that's when they put it out to it for a year or two. But since it changed the rules a small bit and took those kind of tackles out of the game, it doesn't probably have the same appeal for people to watch it now. They're fantastic athletes, and there's the huge bigs, they just packed with muscle, and I think was they were playing amateurs that they pulled it up, and they did like it for a lot of it, But really, really enjoyed playing. And obviously, when you played in Australia, it was a lot better because you got to go away for 3-week holiday as well. So it was nice.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you had some career in terms when you had, and you went under Colin Coyle and you were under Banty afterwards, and you were a selector with Banty, and the service you've given to Meath is phenomenal. But and I know that you said like you'd like to get involved in management. Would you like to get involved with Meath at any level now again in the future?
I think I would, yeah. I suppose like over the last couple of years, like I said, I was training club teams, and with the work I'm doing with stiff work, it was tough and difficult to try and manage everything. That's why I kind of stepped away. Last year I haven't done that last year or this year. Enjoying the break. I'd like to get back into, doing something. Again, obviously, it keeps you alive and keeps you involved in the game, and I still love the game and want to be there. So it's probably something I will look at. I might take up the under sixes in Clonagale this year with some of the young lads playing. that's with the level probably I'm at now.
Oh man, says you. Oh man, come here, Graham. I've held you long enough. That's the episode 2 of Comhrá Le Tomás, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I enjoy your crack. You have a great attitude to everything. You've had a great career, and all these things are going up on Spotify, and the podcast will be up there, and you can all look back on it. And Graham, Garamila Mahagatai, and we'll catch up soon somewhere else down the road. Okay.
Take care.
Thanks a million, bye. Slán, bye. Slán.
Bye.